It's about history, policy, and impact. A new perspective on current affairs, bringing experience, insight, civility, and scholarship to the urgent issues of today. It's about our past, present, and future. Your host, Pulitzer Prize-winning author and journalist, Douglas Blackman. From the University of Virginia's Miller Center, this is American Forum.
Welcome back to American Forum. Our guest in this episode is Ohio Governor John Kasich, who is seeking the Republican nomination for President of the United States. Are you going to win the nomination? How are you going to do it?
I don't have to win every place. I just have to stay in. Frankly, I just get on my bus and I drive around, and half the time I don't even know where I am. They just tell me, okay, get off.
Are you the moderate in the race?
And of course I'm not a moderate. I've been a conservative all my life. I've cut taxes by $5 billion, more than any governor. We're reforming welfare. We've balanced the budget to the point where we're now running a $2 billion surplus, and we've gone from a loss of 350,000 jobs to a gain of 400,000, and I've been one of the most strongest advocates of school choice. But I do have a heart for people who live in the shadows. I do think that when you have economic gain, you shouldn't leave anybody behind. It doesn't mean to hand out, but it does mean a hand up. So my record of conservatism can stand against anybody's. But because I have a nice tone, or because I care about people who, the mentally ill, the drug addicted, the working poor, or the developmentally disabled, or friends in the minority community who, I think need to understand and develop stronger entrepreneurship. That's a new definition.
You've just signed this bill in Ohio that will cut off funding for Planned Parenthood. Since that all came out, since that controversy, a lot of questions have been raised about the video itself. The people who made the video have been criminally indicted. Same grand jury found that Planned Parenthood didn't break the law. In the end, that looks a little bit like a fairly political sort of act to go ahead and sign this bill.
I just think that the organization has lost credibility. I'm for robust funding of women's health. I'm just not doing it through Planned Parenthood.
If you end up being the president who gets to fill that spot, would there be an abortion litmus test?
We don't have litmus tests. I want to know, are they conservative? Are they going to make law or interpret the law? Because I want them not to make law.
We had another mass shooting just in the last few days, 6 people dead.
And if you look at these shooters, if you look at all of them, there basically is a string that attaches all of them, and it is the issue of mental illness. And the country ignores it.
But why is it that it is so difficult to imagine some sort of more robust regulatory apparatus?
Because I don't think it'll work. You'll just be putting laws on the books that will have no impact.
It was 32,000 gun deaths in the United States last year. But guns don't really grow in the backyard. And my guess is that if you called up the head of the alcohol beverage control folks in Ohio right now, they could tell you how many cans of Budweiser there are in the state of Ohio. Mm-hmm. So with a manufactured object like a gun, why wouldn't it be possible to come up with some sort of a regime?
But you're going to ban this set of guns? Okay, well, we'll just re-engineer it a little differently. That's what will happen. And look, we're going to take guns away from my next door neighbor, and we think that's going to solve the problem. I don't believe in just putting laws on books that have no effect and no impact. And look, we have to enforce the laws we have. If you're going to buy a gun, there's an instant check. The states need to be able to upload the data that they have on mental illness, so that, in fact, we're not selling guns to people who are unstable, and carry out the current laws we have. But more laws, I don't believe, are going to fix this. I don't think that's the root cause of it.
You've rejected Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, but you did take the federal funds available for the expansion of Medicare. Medicaid, sorry.
We have to have a deeper solution to this, and that is to have total transparency in all of healthcare, hospitals, and all the providers. And then what we need to do is incent them to drive lower prices with high quality. My Medicaid program went from a 10.5% growth in my second year as governor to 2.5% without cutting one person off the rolls or cutting one benefit. Instead of the mentally ill living in a prison at a cost of $22,500 a year, many of them are working now. You take the drug addicted, when we treat them in the prisons and release them to the community, the recidivism rate is an astounding 20%.
Wouldn't it make sense to just take this successful Ohio model and that become a national model?
No, because what we know is whether it's welfare, education, programs for the poor, or infrastructure, let's get it to the states where it belongs so we can innovate. Because Washington's too big. It's a dinosaur. It's too big and it's not responsive. So the more I can move things out into the states, and as a president, be able to travel to the states talking about the innovations that are occurring across the country, I mean, that's excitement. But there'd be guardrails. I mean, you're not going to take Medicaid money and pave roads. A big part of the American spirit rests in our neighborhoods with our people, doing their job. The teacher dedicating their life, the nurse putting in more time, the kid down the street that helps the lady who's widowed to be able to do some things that she can't do for herself. If you are weak in our society, people run over you. And it is only the Jewish and Christian ethic that underlays our culture, our society, our nation that says, wait a minute, do not run over the widowed, the poor, the neglected. It's at your risk if you do that.
Why not Judeo-Christian Islamic? I mean, why those two
Well,
faiths?
that's not who the U.S. is fundamentally, but we want to have our Muslim friends involved in the fabric of our country. You're not going to, like say, if it's a religious test, you can't come into our country. Those moderate Muslims, Arabs that want to contribute to talk about civilization, society, the role of, in a rising role of women, education. We want everybody in the civilized world to begin to talk to those who represent fundamentally a culture of death to the West, or a culture of death to civilization, to stand up and speak out. But look, let's not be confused. We're fundamentally based on the Jewish and Christian principles.
Which is healing the division between the races in the country in terms of all the turmoil of the past couple of years.
And there are a number of people in the community who think the government doesn't just not work for them, but works against them. That's not healthy in our society. In my state, convened meetings with religious leaders, community activists, law enforcement, and have come up with a series of recommendations to help build trust in the community so that the community understands the challenges of police and the police understand the challenges of community. So we now have a statewide regulation on the use of deadly force, on hiring and recruiting practices inside the police agencies across the state, and now an ability to bring people like this. And then on top of it, we've reformed the Cleveland Public Schools, and we've also eliminated the box where if you're a felon, you're a kid, you're 19, you broke into somebody's dorm room and stole their stereo, and now you're a felon, you put your time in, you pay the price for that, but you can't get a job, cutting hair for the rest of your life.
Why is it, do you think, or why would you say is it, that African Americans, even today, remain so disinterested in the Republican Party?
But I received 26% of the African American vote, which is kind of like earth-shaking. We've now started mentoring programs in the state. If you are a business and you want to mentor, adopt a school and mentor them with a faith-based or a value-based organization, we will, for every dollar you spend to train people, we'll spend $3.
The unemployment rate is now under 5% in Ohio and steadily come down, particularly during your second term. Nationally, it's also come down to 4.9%. And is also the lowest it's been for African American males in a very long time.
It's not good enough. None of it is good enough. And look, you've written a book on the problem of segregation. You're writing another book on the impact of schools. If there's anything we need to fix in this country, it's the K through 12 education system to make it flexible, to make it dynamic, to get kids excited about what they want to be by allowing them to have real world experience so they can understand the purpose of learning, to do the mentoring programs, to keep kids drug free. You know this. It is the hardest thing to reform is your local public school.
But isn't there also a little bit of a contradiction in this idea that the way to make government work the best is to push it out to the states and localities, but then here school boards are the most local kind of government we have, and we are uniformly unhappy with them?
Well, but the difference is, try to fly to Washington and talk to a guy or a woman in the Department of Education. You can't even get in the door.
Donald Trump rather controversially attributed 9/11 to the George W. Bush administration. Very succinctly, do you agree with that?
No. And the key to national security is got to rebuild the defenses, but reform that Pentagon, because it is really inefficient, and they waste so much money. I mean, I found the hammers and the screwdrivers along with a few other people that cost tens of thousands of dollars. That was not acceptable.
You sound like Al Gore now. Be careful.
Well, look, I don't believe in getting in the middle of civil wars, but when our direct interests are threatened, we have to go. And that involves ISIS in a coalition like we had in the first Gulf War. But civil wars are a prescription for a long, drawn-out, bloody, costly situation that we should not be in. Russia, Tell Putin we're arming the Ukrainians. You attack NATO, you're attacking us. The Chinese, let me tell you, stop the cyber attacks because we will come back at you. You don't own the South China Sea. And we don't need to make these people into enemies. We don't need to rattle sabers, but we better be firm about who we are and what we believe so that our allies can begin to trust us.
We've already.
This is really fun, by the way.
Good.
God, we're really covering.
It's like speed dating.
We're covering a lot of things here. You know.
Speed dating.
Be careful of who else you have at this table. I mean, I'm not sure how they'll do.
If you were going to name 2, 3 things that would be the very highest and hardest things you would have to do at the very beginning of your presidency, what would they be?
You don't have a year. You've got 100 days. What would I do? Freeze on all federal regulations for 1 year except for health and safety. I would force the Congress to vote on any regulation over 100 million, and the Vice President of the United States, instead of just going to funerals, is going to unravel federal regulations. It's one of the things you learn with experience being an executive. Sometimes you just want to knock the pieces off the chessboard. And when you do it, the game is over. But if you stay patient and you look for the good in people and you encourage them and you forgive them for things that you think were transgressions or whatever, you're better off.
Well, Governor, good luck to you. Is a part of.
Thank you very much.
Visit us at millercenter.org American Forum. I'm Doug Blackman.